In this video, we will answer the following question. So the question reads, a vector has a magnitude of 10 units and makes 60 degrees with the positive x-axis, and B has a magnitude of 5 units and is directed along the negative x-axis. Find the vector. So in the first place, we find the sum of A plus B. Then number 2, we will find the difference between vector A and B. So now, how are we going to solve this question? In order to solve this question, we will first draw a sketch of what the question is asking for. So we'll draw a sketch, make a rough sketch. So it says we have a vector. So we have a vector. So this vector A has a magnitude of 10 units and makes 60 degrees with a positive x-axis. So this is my y and this is my x here. So it makes 60 degrees with the positive x-axis, meaning it is in the first quadrant. So from here we move as we so to measure the angle, we move from the positive x-axis till we meet that vector. So meaning this is the angle here, and that angle is 60 degrees, and here is our vector A. So this vector A is 10 units. Okay, so now let's sketch the second part. Second part says vector B has a magnitude of 5 units. So 5 units, and is directed along the negative x-axis. So here is the negative x-axis, and it is 5 units. So that is vector B, and it is 5 units, or equal to 5. The magnitude is 5 there. So now, what is the angle between the positive x-axis and the vector B? So we can measure from the positive x-axis until we reach here, which is the vector B. So as we can see that it is making an angle of 180 degrees. So meaning the direction of the vector B is 180 degrees, and the direction of the vector A is 60 degrees. Now let us solve this question. How are we going to solve this question? So when we are adding vectors, we add component wise. So it means that we need to find the components of these two vectors, the components of A and the components of B, the components of A and the components of B. So I will erase this here such that I use this part of the board. Okay, let me erase the sketch. Okay, so now to find the components of the vector A, so what do we do? So we know that we have to find the x component and the y component. So the x component is given by the formula A cos theta. So this is how we find the x component. So now we have A as the magnitude. So we've been given the magnitude, which is 10, and cos theta. What is our theta? So our theta is 60 in this case. So when we punch this in a calculator, 10 cos 60 gives us 5. So now let's find the other component, which is the y component. So the y component is given by the formula A sine theta. So now what is our A? Our A is 10 sine, our angle is 60 degrees. So now when you punch this in the calculator, you will get 8.66. So that is the y component. So now after finding the y component, we now have to find the components of the vector b. So now how do we find the components of the vector b? So we will use the same formula. We first have to find an x component and a y component. So to find the x component, we put the magnitude of b. So the magnitude of b is 5. Cos, what is the angle? So from our sketch, we know that our angle is 180. So 180 degrees. So now you punch this in the calculator, you get negative 5. Okay, so we now find the y component. So y component, what is our magnitude? 5. And what is our angle? It is 180. So now when you punch this in a calculator, you will get that your answer is 0. So these are the components. So we first have found the components of the vector a, and then the components of the vector b. So in order to find the sum a plus b, we need to add them component wise. We must add the components. So the component of x must be added to that of b. So the component of a in the x-axis must be added to the component of b in the x-axis. Yes, and same with the component of a in the y-axis must be added to the component of b in the y-axis. Okay, so let me erase this. Okay, so now how do we then add this? So we will say that our resultant in the x, our resultant in the x component. So we add the component a x plus b bx in order to find the sum. So what did we get? So for ax we found 5. Then for bx we found negative 5. So we get negative 5. And we know that this is going to be 0. So we do the same even for y. So y, then we say a y plus b y. So now adding this, what do we get? So we have 8.6 here. Then what was for b, the component of b, y? That is 0. So now when you add this, you get 8.66. So now to find the magnitude, or to find the sum, that sum which we've been asked for, to find a plus b. So a plus b in this case will be represented by what? By r, which is the resultant. We will use the formula here, this formula. So a x squared plus r y squared. This is the formula that we will use. So now let us replace what we found. So let's replace what we found. So now, okay, so we know that r-axis is 0 here. So even if we put 0 here, we'll still get 0. Then ry squared is 6.66 squared, and this still is going to give us 8.66. So this is the answer of the sum a plus b. So now how do we find the next part of the question? So the next part of the question tells us to find the difference. So that's a minus b. How do we find that difference there? So let me erase this part. Okay, So to find the difference, so we are finding the difference A minus B. So to find the difference, we need to still add vectors, but then how are we going to do the addition? So we will say A, then plus minus B. So this means that the vector B is changing what is changing. This vector B here is changing what direction. So whatever we got when with the components of the vector B, we just multiply what a negative. We just multiply that negative sign there. So now we got that the component in the x-axis was what? Was negative 5. Negative 5. So now multiplying that by negative means this will become negative, negative, and that will give us a positive 5. Now we also do the same with by. But now we see that by, when we multiply negative there, this is 0. So this will still be what? 0. So this will still be 0. So we have these as the components. So now we still add the same. So we will add to say, so we will add the component, so the resultant here. So we add the components. So of A we had what? We had 5. Of AX we had 5. Then BX, what do we have? We also have 5 now. So when we add the 2, we will get 10. Then we do the same for Y. So Y, what do we have for Y? So AY we have 8.6 as we calculated. Then for by, it still remains what? 0. So meaning our resultant will still be what? 8.66. So now to find the difference there, so that A minus what? B will be equal to, so we will square the resultant components. So we will square these resultant components. So it will be 10 squared plus 8.66. So now what does this give us? What does this give us? So when we punch this in a calculator, we will get that our final answer is going to be 13.23. 13.23. So that is what our final answer, and that is the difference of A minus B. Okay, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching.